Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the MASFAAmeUP podcast. We are the unofficial podcast of the Midwest Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, a podcast by financial aid professionals for financial aid professionals. I am one of your co-hosts, Emily Hanum from the University of Missouri, and also the current MASFAA president-elect. This is a special edition where I'm flying solo. My co-hosts Alex and Chad were unable to make the episode today, but I have a very special guest, and we didn't want to miss out on this opportunity to interview her. From Bowling Green State University, Madam MASFAA President, Dr. Betsy Johnson. Betsy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate you inviting me to be here. Although I'm going to admit to the fact that I'm extremely nervous. I am one of those people, I can talk about anything to anyone. In fact, my family wonders how I get up and do presentations in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. It doesn't bother me at all, but for some reason, this is scaring the crap out of me. So there you go. I'm being honest, being me.
You know, the presentations in front of 100 people, I think that's just financial aid magic that you're bringing to the table there. And I think you're going to have some of that today. But we're excited to talk to you. And before we jump into it, we haven't really gone over in a previous podcast kind of like some of the MASFAA history and the MASFAA mission, vision, values. So just real quick, MASFAA is a nonprofit organization. We represent 9 states. We affectionately call it the 3 M's, the 3 I's, and a wow. It's Michigan,
wow.
Yeah, but Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and then the wow. It's West Virginia, Ohio, and Wisconsin. And that's a fun way that we have of remembering it. But we were founded in 1962 at Purdue. We had 91 members representing 15 states. So it has evolved a little bit over the years. But 60 years later now, is it 60 years? It's probably even more than that. I don't know if the math's right on that.
We celebrated our 60th a couple of years ago in Michigan.
Oh, that's right. Oh, man. Yeah. So that's financial aid brain kicking in there and not being able to do simple math without an Excel calculator. But yeah, so now we have over 1,000 members, and part of that is we've gone to an institutional membership, and that's really helped grow our membership base. And our members, they can pay one flat rate for their entire institution to be part of it, and then they get all of the great content and all of the stuff that MASFAA has to offer. But our mission overall remains the same. It's just evolved as tools have evolved, as the professions evolved, and the rules have changed. So, but MASFAA wants to create a quality training and development opportunity for financial aid professionals. We want to be a recognized leader in that, in those opportunities and networking and engagement and resources for our association and beyond. But we want to leverage that as a regional association with all of the different states and all of the different types of institutions. And of course, just be relevant in that work and work with all people, collegiality, mentorship, and stewardship. Those are the mission, vision, values of MASFAA. And Betsy, I would love to hear from you, especially as you've held different positions in MASFAA. Can you talk a little bit about what the value has been being part of MASFAA and now as MASFAA president?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think in any organization, the biggest value is the folks that you meet, the people that you develop relationships with, the ability to have colleagues that you call upon, and especially in financial aid. I've been in aid for over almost 30 years, right? And there have been a lot of changes. And sometimes I bring up words and people go, what are you talking about? Because they haven't been in it as long. Some of us remember the days of printing out things in the colors that the FAFSA was. And so throughout those years, there's been a lot of things that have changed, and it is key to have people you can rely on. And MASFAA is an opportunity to meet people, not just within your state, but across other states, which gives you some value in knowing that, okay, there's really not an institution like me in my own state, but there might be one in another, and developing then that relationship and being able to have somebody to go to, I think is so valuable and so key. And we're able to do things on a bigger scale than maybe a state can, and have speakers that are relevant to what we're going through and what we're trying to tackle in our offices. But I'm a very big people person. And so for me, it comes down to the people and having that larger network. Of course, MASFAA offers incredible training. I wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't. I went to Summer Institute my very first year in financial aid. 1998, we were at Butler.
Whoa.
I know.
Whoa.
I'm throwing it out there. I'm throwing it out there. We went to Butler and we stayed in the residence hall, and I remember having to buy a pair of sweatpants because it was cold. But the people I met there and the things that I learned. I mean, that was before we had NASFAA certifications. And so there was it was called the core book. And there were different modules in the book and I remember going back and asking my first boss in financial aid, Faith Phillips, why we did things the way we did, because I was hearing all of these other places and how they do it and how it's different than when we do. And so it gives that opportunity to hear and learn a best practice from each other. And we do that in so many settings. And honestly, back in the day, God, I sound like I'm so old. It all had to be in person. And now we have these great opportunities where we have the MASFAA Matters webinars. And we've been able to, this year we did the mini MASFAA. And that was a little different because people were actually able to jump in and ask questions live as opposed to just a one-way communication. So taking advantage of the things that have evolved over time to allow our members to be even more engaged, and not just at conference, not just at Summer Institute and Summer Leadership. So the Leadership Symposium, from that perspective, I think MASFAA is doing a great job at sharing what we can to all of our members, no matter where they are across the states.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think at the base of it, right? Like MASFAA's not trying to replace the states. They're trying to complement the work at a larger scale and help you grow a network. I say all the time that I could never do my job at a large public without MASFAA, just because there are only so many large publics in one state. And so it's helpful to see and hear what other states are doing at those larger public schools. But even if there are schools very similar to you within the state, like you said, it helps to hear. You never know what idea is going to get sparked from talking to a bigger network of people and finding out how they do it. And I've learned even just from living in 3 different MASFAA states and now being president-elect and going to some different state conferences, there's a different type of community college network in the state of Indiana. There's a different type of public school network in the state of Wisconsin. And all of those things, you can learn different things and hear how different things are connected and working together. That's something that I think is a benefit to MASFAA compared to the states. And then when you get to NASFAA, it's too big almost, like it's harder to connect. And so it's not that there's not engagement. It's just when you already get to a conference that's that size, it's helpful to already have connections made. And I think that can happen more at the state and the regional level. You can just build your network. But I have a question off of something you said. You said you had to buy sweatpants at Butler. So my question is, do you still have those sweatpants?
I don't. but I did wear them for quite some time afterwards. But yeah, no.
Well, they were from 1998. So I mean, you know, kids these days like they hear the 90s and they act like it's like the 50s to us. But like, anyway, I digress.
Well, it kind of is like the 50s to them. So
yeah, I know it's crazy, but that's what's crazy about
scary.
it, right? It is like when, I had a moment of panic when I started to get to the classes that were well beyond the time frame of me graduating and being born. And now I'm long past that, but like, whew, that was a tough one when that happened.
Just because we're kind of talking about our ages a little, sort of hinting at them. This week we've seen some people who have been famous pass away, right? Some very famous folks. And somebody sent a picture or a meme on our string of my friends and said, check on your 80s kids. We are not okay. Because we've lost, Theo Huxtable, Ozzy Osbourne, like people who like were large in our world. So I kind of giggled when I saw them. Like, yeah, I totally was an 80s kid. And it is hitting me this week that people.
Yeah, I saw that meme too. And then I saw another one that said, somebody go wrap Willie Nelson in bubble wrap, just because.
Yep.
So, and it's not funny that these folks passed, but it from an age perspective, and it was, I think it's a little traumatic for folks that grew up with those as, public figures.
And even my daughter, who's 24, when I hadn't heard Hulk Hogan died, she sent it on the family string. She's like, just FYI, I can't believe this one. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even heard that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Betsy, we've known each other, gosh, probably a decade now. I look at you as another fantastic female leader and mentor in the financial aid profession, and I'm honored to call her a friend. And let me tell you, Betsy friends intensely. So, if you are in her circle, it is a ride or die relationship. And she will be that person for you for life. And she's the type of person that you need in your life to say, suck it up, buttercup. But then also she is right there and the first person to give you a huge hug and support when you need it and positivity. So she's actually one of the first people I ever met when I was working in Ohio and part of the OASFA, the Ohio State Association. And the woman's a machine. Like I'm just telling listeners, she can do it all. I have no idea how she does all that she does. But since I've known her, she's worked her tail off for all the associations that she works for her office. She volunteers at the state level, the regional level, but also she volunteers for a lot of things for her personal life, from Sons Hockey Association to being on her HOA board and all these things. So I'm sure I'm missing 100 things in there, Betsy. But why are you so involved in all that you do?
Because I don't know how to say no. Seriously, I think from my perspective, it goes, I was raised in a household, and mind you, there were four children, and my mom and dad both worked. Now, my mom did not work when we were little, but I don't remember a time where my mom or my dad were not involved in what we were doing, whether it was my dad coaching. My dad was very involved in, my brother played hockey too. That's probably where I got the hockey part of it, not going to lie. And he was very involved in that. He was a plumber, so he was in a union and he was very involved in his union. And so seeing them engaged and involved is all I knew. Like, I didn't know that there were parents who didn't get involved in things. To me, I taught Sunday school. The kids were going to be there like, why wouldn't I? Right.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was the same thing with their sports. You need a team mom for volleyball, I'm it. And so I've served on several boards. I guess part of it is I care so much about the things I'm involved in. And if I'm going to be involved in it, I want it to be good. I
Sure.
want whatever that is. And so, for OASFA, I go back and I give credit to Faith again. My second year, I think, she's like, okay, let's go. You're going to get on this committee. And so she got me involved. And while I didn't stay in her office long, I took that with me and I remained. I mean, I was on the Ohio exec board over 20 years, which is probably too long if you think about it. At some point, you need to let some other people in. And so was very engaged at the state level and loved every minute of it. Again, it's a way to meet people, to connect with people, to develop your circles. And I have different circles for different things. When we were going through all the craziness with FAFSA last week, God, thank God it's not just last week. There were different text strings I was on, and every one of them was so key and brought such value to me. And the same is true, I was very involved with my son's hockey from when he was 4 years old till he graduated high school. And I actually stayed on the board one more year, kind of, to help them through transition because I'd been involved for so long. But I got to know so many different people and I got to help shape things. And I think I'd be extremely bored if I wasn't involved. Now, are there days I'm exhausted and tired? Yes. And I have learned to say no. Not well, but I have said no to to a few things. So I think it was ingrained in what I saw growing up, and I can't imagine my life not being involved. Like, I don't think I would be fulfilled as a person if I didn't give back. And so for me, being so involved in various things, I mean, it does run the gamut. I have done a lot of things, and as my career comes to an end in the not so distant future, I wonder, okay, what's going to take its place? Because when I'm not involved in the state or MASFAA, or NASFAA, what will I do? Right? Because I cannot just sit and twiddle my thumbs all day. It sounds great, but even on a day off, I find myself going, okay, what's next? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it sounds like you like to stay busy. And also, I don't approve of your career coming to an end anytime soon because I would like for you to stay.
I should probably clarify. It's not coming, like it's not an immediate future, but I'd be lying if I
It's still
wasn't
too close.
if I wasn't thinking, okay, it can come soon.
Yeah. No, no. I'm all for people retiring as soon as they can, but I selfishly I don't want you to go before I'm ready to because
Yeah,
I need you.
but when I retire, I will be in Myrtle Beach. And so that gives you a reason to come to Myrtle Beach.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's fair. Yeah, I like the myrtle. Okay, so all of this that you're doing, how do you stay balanced on the days that are more busy? Like how do you unwind? How do you find the balance in all of it, especially with the stress? I mean, financial aid's not an easy profession to work in. There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of change. Just how do you find the balance and work through that?
I don't know that I have. I'm not sure I am the best person to ask that question because I, I'm not 100% good at balancing things. Now, I will say I am better than I used to be. Um, but there are moments I look back and I do wish I had learned to say no a little bit earlier. And part of it goes, when you're working full time and you give your all to your office and your people, like my staff mean the world to me. And making sure that they are okay. I am more on them about you need to take vacation. You need to leave at 5. Like I don't want to see you here 6:30 every night. Now, peak times are a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
But I am much more of those do as I say, not as I do, probably. And so I really try to push people to have that balance, knowing that I am not so good at it. Um, I look back, I got my PhD and I had 2 young children. In fact, at one point I had 4 because we took in our 2 nephews for a point in time. And I look back at that and I think, how in the world did I work full time, deal with 4 children, and still get a PhD? And I think part of it is you just figure it out. You just
Yeah.
figure it out. Now, I did have to figure out how to take care of myself because I wasn't, right? And so now I'm a crazy person and I get up depending on the day. And if I have an exercise class or not, I'll be up at either 4:15 or 5 a.m. pretty regularly to get an exercise in the morning. That helps keep me balanced. I love to read. So before I go to bed each night, I am spending some time reading. That is also the time my husband will be on Facebook and he's like, you need to, and I'm like, and for those of you who know me, I don't get on Facebook very often. I find myself, I'd rather read a book. So I miss out on stuff too, because a lot of people post things on social media and then I'm like, I didn't know that. And they're like, well, I posted. And I'm like, can you just send me a text, please? Because I feel bad that I didn't congratulate you on blah, 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 blah. So I also feel right, wrong, or indifferent. As a female, early on, I felt I had a lot to prove, especially in some job positions that, I was vice president at an institution. I was the only female at that table. And so sometimes I felt I had to do more because of that to make sure that I was recognized for that hard work. And so I hope that today things are different than what they were. And I hope that people can take time to do the balance that they need because it isn't healthy. And life is too short. Like life is too short. And while we purposefully during COVID, it was a COVID buy when we bought our condo in Myrtle, but it was thinking about we are going to retire and I want to retire at an age where I can still enjoy. Like I don't want to be, and not that those who have stuck around longer, good. That's what makes you happy. But I do want to enjoy life. I hope someday to have grandkids and I want to enjoy that, So I hope people, and I do think this generation is much better about balancing.
It sounds like you found, I mean, you know what makes you tick, and it sounds like you found what you need. But it was really interesting hearing about some of that historical perspective. I do think things have balanced in a more positive direction on that front, but I think it's something that we always have to be conscious of and continue to bring awareness and all that good stuff. So, okay, so Betsy, in your MASFAA coronation speech, I'm not calling it a coronation speech, you mentioned that you're from Pittsburgh and how much you loved watching Mr. Rogers. So I recorded this speech on my cell phone with the full intent of sharing it with you, like, almost a year ago. But for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how to do it. And then, so it's just been collecting virtual dust for about the last 10 months. So, but anyway, with the help of some programs that I'm learning, Microsoft Clipchamp, by the way, is a free program that is part of our Microsoft suite that has helped me figure some of this stuff out. They're not a sponsor, but we're always trying to share tools that we're learning. I figured out how to cut clips for the MASFAAmeUP podcast. So I'm going to play that clip now for our listeners and for you about your Mr. Rogers quotes.
You make each day a special day. You know how? Just by being you. As human beings, our job in life is to help people realize how rare and valuable each one of us really is. That each of us has something that no one else has or ever will. If you could only sense how important you are to the lives of those you meet, how important you can be to the people you may never even dream of, there is something of yourself that you leave behind in meeting every person. Some days, doing the best we can may still fall short of what we would like to be able to do. But life isn't perfect on any front, and doing what we can with what we have is the most we should expect of ourselves or anyone else. And finally, there are 3 ways to ultimate success. The first is to be kind. The second way is to be kind. And the third way is to be kind.
So, okay, so Betsy, can you tell us a little bit about why you chose these quotes and what they meant to you in your first speech as MASFAA president?
Yeah, well, I mean, those of you who know me, Pittsburgh is my home. I love it dearly. I'm still a Steelers fan, a Pirates fan, a Penguins. Like it is still a big part of who I am. I mentioned my dad was blue collar. That I grew up in a time in a world where Mr. Rogers' neighborhood was just what you watched in Sesame Street. And when you're young, you don't realize the lessons you learn during some of those shows. And again, I grew up at a time where you couldn't watch it whenever you wanted. It was on once a day, and cartoons were Saturday morning, and that was it. So things are different today. But as I've gotten older and reflect back on that, Mr. Rogers taught a lot of good lessons. And if you have never watched the movie about him, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, it is phenomenal. And Tom Hanks does a great job being Mr. Rogers. But the core of who he was and the way he thought and the way he treated people and how he wanted you to understand not all of us are alike, and that's okay, and how to accept other people. And his legacy in my mind is just huge. And so when I was thinking about my, what'd you call it, coordination
Yeah.
speech? Yeah. I love that. I was trying to think about what we as financial aid professionals have been through the last year or two, right? We had been through a really rough time, and we had sucked it up, took on things at every turn. I mean, I felt every Friday night at 5 o'clock, there was a new release from the Department of Ed that ruined my weekend, to the point where I just stopped checking things because I did not want my weekend ruined anymore. And I think about not just myself and some professionals who have been in the field a long time, but I worry about some of our newer professionals who don't know that this has been a very different financial aid world than what it had been. I'm not saying financial aid doesn't change on a regular basis. Please
Sure.
don't hear me say that. But the hits that we continue to take over I would say the 2 years leading up to that time, I just wanted to step back and have people come back and realize, you know what, you're gonna be okay. And you make a difference. Every one of you makes a difference in every person you meet. And you may not even know it. Like you may say, walking down the hall or across campus, you may say hi to somebody that you don't know, and they could be having the worst day, and you just impacted them because you recognize them, you address them. And so I've he has a ton of quotes, by the way, like a
Yeah.
ton of things that he has said over the years. And I just narrowed it down to those things that I felt were key for us to remember and remind ourselves of why we are in this field, because we are not in this field to get ourselves beat up, but we have been. But we're in this field to help. We're in this field. We work in the higher ed has a lot of opportunities, right? We could work on a college campus and we could do some really fun things. Well, we do some fun things in financial aid too, but I mean, and not have the regs on us and not have this craziness hit at us. But that's not the areas we choose, because deep down, we want to see others succeed, and we want to help the person who thinks that they can't. And we work our tails off to do that. And so I wanted us to step back and think about, because I think we are Mr. Rogers in many, many ways to people.
Yeah.
And I wanted us to remember the key is just to be kind, be kind to each other. And Lord knows, when we met in October, I had no idea what was coming yet this year, right? And so to me, these things are still so important. Just being kind and remembering that you are special and you impact others, whether you know it or not. And others impact you too, of course. And you decide how you do that. Like I don't know who said it. But people say you wake up every morning and you have a choice. You have a choice on how you handle your day, and you can handle your day and be happy, or you can handle your day and just be mean to people. Like, not that people choose to be mean all the time, but I'm just trying to say, like, that's okay. Yeah.
No, I hear you. And I think there are so many wonderful nuggets from everything that you just said and the why behind what you chose. And I think it's all stuff that, as a financial aid professional who we do deal with hard stuff, and sometimes it's overwhelming, and sometimes the challenge of the change, while you have to embrace it to work in financial aid, it can still be difficult and tiring and stressful. And it's important that we give ourselves grace. We need reminders of that. And your speech was a reminder of that. And the way you just described everything was really important, and another great thing for folks that work in financial aid, in leadership positions especially. But I think it's a good message for all of us to hear. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah,
And
Emily, I want to, you said
it.
a word in there that I find so valuable, and it is give people grace.
Yes.
And give yourself grace. Like
Yes.
I think sometimes we are our hardest critics for sure, but sometimes you just need to give yourself grace. So thank you for saying that word, because that is
it's funny you say that, because it's something that I struggle with the hardest personally. And so it's something that I have written down and have to pull out quite often for myself, just to remember we're not going to be perfect, and it's okay. And progress over perfection. And in that process, you have to give yourself some grace. That's
100%.
a good call out.
Yep.
So Betsy, talk about, like, what has been the most rewarding part so far, being MASFAA president?
Doing this podcast. Just kidding.
Woo! Yeah. That's going in for sure.
Honestly, it's really hard to pinpoint one thing. So I'm bear with me here. It has been phenomenal to watch not just the members on my board, but their committees put so much time and effort into things that are being done for our members. It is amazing to me to see all that we've accomplished already in all the things that have happened during a time that hasn't been easy, right? I hinted at it. Things have been rough this year as well, and it's not going away, unfortunately for us in the next year either. So to still see people passionate about financial aid and about this association, they have just energized me in ways that they'll probably never know, right? I mean, I tried to share how appreciative I am of people, but I don't know that people realize that some of the things that they're doing is what helps me keep going. Um, and I love visiting the States. I'm not gonna lie. I'm is one of my favorite things about being MASFAA president is being able to go to all these states and meet incredible people. I have met so many awesome people that I look forward to seeing them with, whether it's in their states or in MASFAA, step up and do great things. That has been a blessing for me. You know, it's really cool to see other people and their excitement for this profession. Yeah, that's been the best. That's been the best part for me, and this podcast too.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for slipping that in there. That's what's special, and I think it's hard to explain it unless you've experienced it. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we want to do this podcast and do some other things to try to help continue to get the word out. We can send emails, we can send newsletters, we can give updates, but we want people to feel it in another format. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but obviously MASFAA was the regional association. What in your mind really sets it apart from the Midwest states, the states associations, and then the national associations?
So I'm going to be pretty honest here and say early on in my career, I didn't get it. OASFA was the association that I felt was all I needed. And I was very adamant about that for a few years. I felt OASFA had strong training. I felt OASFA had strong opportunities for those of us in Ohio. And all my heart and soul went to Ohio, right? For a very long time. And when I was state president way back in the day, I got to serve on the board, which was a great experience for me. And I got to visit West Virginia as state president at that time. And I will give a huge shout out to West Virginia because they are smaller, but boy, did we have fun. And so many people just, you knew the collegiality that they all have with each other. I mean, it might have something to do with it. We got fogged in on the top of a mountain one night and nobody could go anywhere. So I would be lying if I said my whole career I felt MASFAA was incredible. But after I was state president and then I did a few things for MASFAA on some committees, and then I really started to get involved probably, oh gosh, now it's probably almost been 10 years ago. And
when you met me, you got involved.
Yeah,
right around the time we met.
Of course. It's all about you. I started to realize there are differences between the state and MASFAA, and they each have their unique opportunities. I mean, at MASFAA, we can't talk about state legislation because it's different for each state that's engaged with us, right? So that's a very strong strength that the states have and should take advantage of. We all, whether you're the state or MASFAA, you're having your conferences, you're doing various trainings. But I think I hinted at it before. With MASFAA, we're able to broaden that spectrum. We're able to bring in different things. The Department of Ed, they typically don't go to a state conference, but they do to MASFAA, right? So it's our ability to give a little bit more than maybe what a state can give. NASFAA, that's a whole different beast. Everything, all of our states and MASFAA are all volunteers, strictly 100% volunteers. NASFAA, they have paid staff, but NASFAA is key for us with all of the politicking. I'll put it that way. The legislative stuff and being our voice. And so MASFAA is key because we have each state represented on our board. again, that's how I was really, I was first introduced to MASFAA. And so we bring the states in so they can share their concerns to us. And then each region sits on the NASFAA board to then float things up to them. And I think we each have our own niche, which is so important for our profession. And it's making sure that we're doing those things that we need to do as MASFAA, knowing our states are focused on other things. We all are trying to keep updates. We're all trying to stay up to speed on everything. But absolutely, I think there is a difference. But if you'd asked me that 20 years ago, I wouldn't agreed. And I'm just being honest. I'm thankful. I've seen the light.
No, well, I'm really glad you share that because it's actually something that I hear quite. I've lived in 3 different states and 3 different MASFAA states, and I've kind of had the reverse experience. I started more of my financial aid volunteering in MASFAA because the first thing I did was go to Summer Institute, and then I was like, how can I get involved? And then I immediately got involved in MASFAA and then got involved in my state. So I kind of had the opposite of normal, and not the way we would recommend it. We recommend people getting involved in their states and then getting some experience and working it through. But I hear that often, that our state association is strong. Why do I need MASFAA? It's another expense. It's another this. It's another that. And I think you just explained it really well for people that might have that question. I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, can you share a little bit more about your journey into financial aid as a career? And if you could go back and give yourself some advice when you were first entering financial aid, what would that be?
Yeah, so I don't think any of us grow up thinking you're going to go into financial aid. It's not a major, right? My major was psychology. I wanted to help people. I honestly,
That explains a lot. You are a
well,
psychology major. That
I know.
explains a lot. No.
Wait till I tell you. You know what I used to tell my mom? I wanted to be Dear Abby. I wanted to be Dear Abby.
Oh my goodness.
So,
I see a future MASFA offering of a Dear Abby column. Dear Betsy.
love it. And then when I was in college, I was an RA, I was an orientation leader, I worked in the career services office. I did a lot of things. I was involved in organizations. I was in Greek life. And I realized with a psychology degree, there isn't much you can do unless you go on. And I realized maybe I really don't want to do this, but I love being on a college campus. And so I went straight on and got my master's in college student personnel. And my focus, I went to OU. And I worked in their student activities and their leadership development program. And I loved it. And so when I graduated, that's what I really thought I would do. And I ended up with an academic advising job. That was my first job out of college. Again, still helping advising, right? Like there's a theme here with Betsy, I guess. And had never, financial aid hadn't even been anything I'd ever thought about or discussed. But I was about to be married and I had to move. And so I was looking at any job I could get because I couldn't be jobless. And someone took a leap of faith with me. Catch that leap of faith. It was faith who hired me. I didn't mean that. Like that just came out weird. And so first year, I just fell in love with it. I mean, it is different every day. And my first job, you did everything for your students. So we had an alphabet split. And so I packaged, I did SAP, I did verification, I did special condition. I did everything for that split, other than like hit the thing to disperse the aid or whatever. So that was back in the day of still paper files and things like that. But I got because of that role, I saw so many different pieces of the puzzle in financial aid, and you had to know it from start to the end. And I got the bug and I have loved it. And I have been blessed to get so many opportunities and be able to go up the ladder in financial aid and have all these other volunteer type opportunities. I think the one thing I would go back, and I think I hinted at, I didn't have good balance. I was not good at balancing. I wish I had learned that earlier. And also to not take things personally. I can be an emotional person and sometimes it hurts, right? when people say things and they don't mean it to you personally, and you're giving a message that unfortunately you're giving because of rules you have to follow. And I had to grow a little bit of a backbone,
Sure.
which wasn't easy. And so give yourself grace for sure, like that 100%. Find your balance, but also take advantage of opportunities. I would tell any new professional, look, and I'll use my office as an example. People have very specific roles. Like they don't have the luxury of what I had in my first job. We're a very large institution. I can't have people doing everything for everyone. It's very different here. But when you have the opportunity to cross train or learn something new, to widen your knowledge on financial aid, you will be a better financial aid professional. So I would say to those who maybe feel they're pigeonholed, you don't have to take advantage of opportunities. Go to a conference and go to sessions that aren't things that you do, right?
Love that.
Because that will help you grow. I don't know. I don't remember your question now. Did I touch on it?
No, you nailed it. I wanted to hear about your journey and then like what advice you would give. And I think all of that was tremendous advice. And I think one of the things that I struggled with when I first started was, I had worked in athletics and I had student interaction, but it was very prescriptive, very deliberate of when I was working with students as a compliance officer. And I think one of the hard transitions of going to a financial aid office was being on the front lines and having those difficult conversations. And every day I felt sick to my stomach walking into the office because I was scared. I was nervous. And some of the stuff you touched on, about not taking things personally. I want every interaction that I have with a student or a family to be awesome. I want them to leave feeling great. And when you put that kind of pressure on yourself day in and day out, that gets tiring and it gets stressful. But I think one of the things that I learned very quickly is preparation was key. Knowing my stuff, or knowing as much as I could know, was important. Knowing where that limit was, where I would say, you know what, I don't know this, but I can look it up or I can talk to the people that do, and I will get back to you and then get back to them. That's okay. I think we lose sight of that. That's an okay statement to make to a family sometimes or a student. And then just not taking it personal. Like you said that when you were just talking, and that really resonated with me. You have to figure out a way to have compassion, but realize it's not about you. It's about the information, and the students just trying to navigate the process. And what can we do to keep bringing them back to the facts in a compassionate way, where they feel like you're running through a brick wall for them. You're providing them all the best information and all the best options that you can. And once I kind of got to that point where I was like, their reaction is not about me. They're challenged, they're upset, whatever. I can't think of the word. Like the way they're feeling is not about me, but how can I help them through those feelings? And once I got there, that fear of getting yelled at or having a difficult conversation went away. And the conversations got better. So even when I was giving bad news or difficult news, they still were thanking me by the end of the conversation because they felt that compassion ultimately at the end of it. So, but I think, yeah, I mean, we've talked about giving grace, but that was some of those things. I think the advice that you just gave was spot on. And I just wanted to share a little bit there from my experience. Okay, so the MASFAA annual conference is coming up. It is right around, I cannot believe we're already like, almost to August 1st. But the MASFAA annual is October 12th through 15th in St. Charles, Missouri. Shameless plug. We got to throw it out there. But early bird, yeah, of course, right? I mean, early bird registration is now open, and it's open through September 5th. So if you haven't already registered and you're intending to, don't let that fall by the wayside during the fall rush. But this is your conference as president, Betsy, and the president, if for folks that don't know, the president has a big hand in picking the theme of the conference, and so Betsy picked the theme of "Lean on Me," and I just want to know, Betsy, why was that theme? Why was that the direction you headed for our conference this year?
Well, I'm a music person. So I love music. I listen to a lot of music. We play trivia all the time. And so when I was thinking about this, just what we had been through, and what I felt MASFAA was all about. For me, it is leaning on each other. It is helping each other through the good and the bad, right? I keep focusing on the bad, but there's a ton of good too. Like there are plenty of positive things that have occurred that we have been able to celebrate as an association. And so, and the things that I have found through MASFAA are key. My friends, you know, trust, professionalism, advice from others, you know, all of those things. And that led to the lean on me. And I, you know, it's a great song. It's actually a great movie too. If you've never seen the movie Lean on Me, for me, it embodied what MASFAA is. And so I'm just thankful that others were comfortable with that as a theme and willing to take it and run. Because I think it is what we are all about. And having faith and trust in each other, and being willing to lean on each other and knowing that's okay. That's what we're here for, right? We're here for all those things. So
amen. 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 I love it. So what is your favorite MASFAA memory so far? It doesn't have to be during presidency, but like just overall.
I can't.
I'm trying to bait you here with
I know.
Just around the river bend.
Well, so that is definitely one. It's funny because that is one. So for those of you who don't know, Emily and I co-chaired local arrangements several years ago when the conference was in Dayton. And we had great co-chairs with the program, with Laura Rogers and Jenna Bowling. And the four of us, I think, did awesome. Of course we did awesome.
It was a wild ride. It was fun. It was a wild magical ride. And tiring.
Yeah. And at the conference, as things were going on, we're in this conference room and where we were, there was a river and there was a bend. And for some reason, I just started singing Just Around the River Bend. And then we would spin our chairs in the conference room. And it is still a joke when we all see each other. So that is a great memory. But there are a lot of those types of moments that I've had over the years. And I've had plenty of those moments in the states I've visited so far. And I look forward to those that I haven't been to. But in honesty, every memory I have is because of the people I'm with. Yeah. So it's hard to say this one's better than this one because my memories are with different people throughout MASFAA and they're all so special. And that's where I find myself so blessed to be in this role.
Yeah, love that.
I was about to get emotional there.
Oh, well, one of my favorite MASFAA memories, aside from Just Around the River Bend, of you is you singing to the entire membership during your presidential inauguration or coronation speech. I'm mixing it up here. But correct me if I'm wrong. You wrote this song and you sang it at multiple conferences that you attended as president across, the Midwest. Can you just talk a little bit about the background where this idea came from? And honestly, I have no idea. I would never have the courage to go up and do something like that in front of like whatever. But anyway, so just talk about the song.
Yeah. So I actually will give Holly Hunter from Ivy Tech all this credit because I was going to Indiana. That was my very first state conference as president-elect. And so we were just going back and forth. She was my contact and I was talking about, this is about how long the MASFAA update will be, blah, 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 blah. Here are the presentations I'm happy to do. However you need to use me during your conference is great. And so she responds back at one point and she says, it's been a rough year. Would you be willing to lighten it up a little bit after your MASFAA speech, whatever, maybe talk about, and she literally said, not said, but in the email, to all the FAFSAs I loved before, because I had given her my history, right? So they knew how long I'd been in aid and they knew, so she literally gave me a link to Willie Nelson as if I wouldn't know who sang the song, but of course I know who sang the song. And Julio Iglesias too, right? So I don't know that she really expected me to follow through on that. I'm not going to lie. When I got up afterwards, she's like, I'm like, you planted the seed and I ran with it. And so I did. I created verses for the song that I felt were appropriate. And I have added to those verses when I sang in October, I had added a new verse because at that point we knew 25, 26 was delayed. And I have since added and changed a verse for the ones I attended earlier this spring based on new things that have happened and changed. Listen, I laugh at myself all the time. I can make a fool out of myself. And I do every time I get up and sing that because I don't have a decent voice, but I really don't care. Like, people get it. I hope it makes people laugh. I hope they have fun with it. Again, I think I've been more nervous about this podcast than I have been standing up to sing a song in front of, because, you know,
Sure.
It's a little karaoke. It's all good. So yeah, she literally made one suggestion. I think it was off the cuff, like maybe something like this. And I took that exact thing and ran with it. So, and I've enjoyed it. And now I need to figure out, oh gosh, I might have to write another verse.
Well, it's a challenge you accepted for sure and ran with it. And now my fear is now I have to follow you and I am not singing. Like, let's just be clear about this fact right now. There is no singing happening from this person. I do have a clip because remember, I was videotaping. Oh, videotaping. That made me sound old. I was videoing you with my iPhone at the conference. So I have this saved. And so I want our podcast listeners to hear that. So I am going to play that clip for you all now.
Oh gosh, good luck, folks. I'm sorry.
To all the EFCs I've loved before, who now are SAIs I'm caring for, I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song to all the EFCs I've loved before. To all the Pell Charts I once memorized, may I say they were the best, for now I have to learn 3 ways. It is a lot, I know. To all the Pell Charts I've loved before. The winds of change are blowing, and every time I tried to stay, the winds of change continued blowing, and they just carried me away. To all the programs introduced that now no longer do exist, like ACG and SMART, and how can you forget FELP? To all the programs introduced. And now 25, 26 is delayed. How much more of this can we take? It's been a rough few years, but we stand strong for our students as we are FA administrators. That's really hard to squeeze in there. To all the changes we've endured that fill our nights with lack of sleep, please know you're not alone. We stand together strong, and we'll survive FAFSA simplification. That's it. That's all.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so Betsy, thank you for joining us today. I know you were nervous, but you nailed it.
Can I say thank you?
Oh gosh, yes, of course.
I want to say thank you back, because as nervous as I was, you did make this much easier. And I appreciate the ability to come on and be part of this podcast. And so thank you. I appreciate you for a lot of reasons, my friend Emily, for a lot of reasons. Thank you.
I love it. I'm throwing the heart back at you there, Betsy. So always, our podcast is it's meant to be a conversation amongst friends and sharing with our members. You did a wonderful job, Betsy, sharing a little bit about yourself, sharing a little bit about your MASFAA experience. We're really excited that you're able to join us today. Once again, we are the podcast by financial aid professionals for financial aid professionals. If you have a topic idea, don't hesitate to email us at MASFAAmeUP@gmail.com. Also, don't forget, we already mentioned it, but the MASFAA annual conference is coming up October 12th through 15th in St. Charles, Missouri, and the program is really shaping up to be an awesome one. Also, don't forget, as part of your MASFAA membership, we have regular webinars throughout the year, and those webinars are on demand. So if you can't get to them, in the first run, remember they are out there for you to go back and watch on demand when it's convenient for you. We have another one coming up on September 18th, succession planning, preparing your staff today to be the staff of tomorrow. And again, that all aligns with MASFAA's mission. We have another future guest on the scheduled for the podcast. Alex and Chad and I are going to talk with a WWE superstar, Angelo Dawkins. Apparently, Alex wrestled with him in high school or college, but we are going to be talking through with him, pushing through adversity, achieving goals, being your authentic self. And also, I'm super excited because he's from Ohio, so we're gonna talk a little bit about Ohio and Ohio State. So thank you to everyone. Thank you again to Betsy for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of the MASFAAmeUP podcast.